Hi folks, welcome to your Rangers at Dens Park midweek preview pod, coming to you in association with Forest Precision Engineering. My name's Alec Anderson and I'm talking to you, as you can see by old Billy Corgan behind me there, the day after Halloween. It's the 1st of November. The month of October 2023, the calendar month of October 2023 has been consigned to the waste bin of history. Thank God says you, thank God says me. But we have to admit that we did turn it around. It turned those frowns upside down across the course of October 2023. No more so than with the last kick of the ball, basically, of that month on Sunday, resulting in Rangers snatching a victory from the jaws of defeat, which hopefully will come on to define the whole season. And that would have... October 2023 when it happened, if it does go on to be a successful season for Rangers, because we started off with the manager getting punted, a horrific European result, that performance or non-performance, abject humiliation, embarrassment in Limassol, one of the worst I've ever seen in my many years supporting Rangers. But at the same time, we're getting in good candidates, interviewing good candidates for the vacant manager's job. We picked, in my opinion, the best man for the job, and he certainly re-energised the place, culminating, as I say, with the last game we played in October on Sunday, turning a terrible performance into a great, very valuable, very useful, momentum-inspiring victory. But I am as happy as yourself to be turning the page in the old wall calendar this morning. So it's the day after Halloween and Rangers are off to Dens Park. Well, supposedly there's been a pitch inspection at Dens Park earlier today. The kind of rain that's hitting Glasgow infrequently today, it's been the same up in Dundee, but of course Angus, Tayside, that part of the world was hit particularly badly during the serious storms that affected the country just a few weeks ago, and there was a game postponed at Dens Park at that time. So there's a good chance the game could go off, but Dundee are saying they're optimistic about the game going ahead, but I won't be paying my $14.99 to DTV until the last minute tonight. The game not on Sky, but the Skies having their revenge. Yes, it's a pun, it's a terrible pun, it's a terrible patter moment for me, and that's the only kind of patter I've got. So with Rangers going to Dens Park the day after Halloween, we're going to Fir Park the day before Christmas, we're going to Hampden on Sunday, remember the 5th of November, we're playing Hearts in the League Cup semi-final on Guy Fawkes night. The calendar is offering a lot of kind of calendar-based opportunities for punnery these days with the Rangers fixtures, and I think that kind of started on Sunday. I think, by the way, last night, what was the best joke? Do you have a good Halloween? The best joke I heard last night was, what do you call a camel with 3 humps? Pregnant. So that was quite good for a 5-year-old. So that was one wee kind of extortionist at the door that I didn't mind giving away. My sweeties, my chocolates, they're mine. The wife disagrees, but she was kind of kicking me in at the kitchen while give them to the Waynes. You got to give them to the Waynes. You got to be nice to the neighbours, Waynes. But that one was well worth it. But I think it started on Sunday with the fireworks against Hearts, hopefully, and Santa will have arrived early or something for somebody at Fir Park. But on Sunday, I think it was that turning back the clocks. The day the clocks went back, and that was Rangers were turning back time. We were turning back the clocks to mount a comeback win. That's something we've been accused of not doing recently, and I was buzzing after the game. So there's no way I'm saying we haven't been able to, we haven't struggled to mount that kind of win recently, but you have to look at the last time we played Dundee at Dens Park. The last time Rangers went to Dens Park, 20th of March 2022, just over a year and a half ago, and you'll never guess what happened. Absolutely unprecedented. We were a goal down in the league on a Sunday against a struggling SPFL Premiership side after a mere, was it 6 minutes or something like that? Less than 10 minutes anyway, and we struggled to get an equaliser. And then just in the stroke of half-time, just before half-time, we got a penalty and James Tavernier missed it. We get down the tunnel, losing 1-0. Tav's missed a penalty. It's depressing. We come out the second half, struggling to get an equaliser. And we played Dundee 7 days previously, the same team we had played 7 days previously in a cup competition. We got Hearts 7 days later in a cup competition after playing us. And in between times, we had gone to Belgrade, and we'd lost on the night. It wasn't a positive result on the night, but it was positive overall. It was a positive result without getting the score line. We looked for just like a 0-0 in Prague, Eastern Europe as well. It's kind of, what I'm trying to do here. Anyway, we got a second penalty deep into that second half, towards the end of that second half. And talking about the weather just now, you'll have noticed Halloween, the clock's going back. The moon has been really bright. It's been full moon all night, and then even in the morning the clocks go back, but it's a bit lighter for the first week after the clocks go back at first thing in the morning, and the moon is still up there as the sun's coming up as well. And a lot of people have been howling something fierce at that moon since Rangers were awarded those 2 penalties at the end of each half on Sunday. Well, this was another game 18 months ago that Rangers were struggling, losing, and we got a second chance from the penalty spot. Up steps James Tavernier. The haters, the people in the Rangers support who hate Tav, he better score this penalty or else he's getting stripped of the captaincy, he's getting kicked out the club altogether as far as I'm concerned. A few months later, he took us to a European final. He steps up and he puts it away under serious pressure. It's 1 each. You've never seen anything like it. Unprecedented scenario. Straight after that, the buzz we got from scoring that goal, we score a quick second. Connor Goldson winning the game 2-1. We're in the founding fathers all white kit, but apart from that, the coincidences are pretty massive. The idea that Rangers don't mount comebacks, we haven't done it recently. It depends how you define recently. When you get to my age, like Steven Gerrard, 4 managers ago, Steven Gerrard, but that was less than 2 years ago. He was Rangers manager, but one of his bigger European games, that last 16 tie against Braga, the first time we played Braga in the Europa League, we had them at Ibrox in the first leg of that last 32 tie, and we're 2-0 down with 20 minutes to go, and Yanis Hadji currently setting up goals for Alaves against Atletico Madrid. He announced himself to the world with 2 late goals that completed the comeback started by Joe Aribo, currently sitting on the bench for Southampton. And we then have Giovanni Van Bronckhorst as manager. The second time we played Braga in Europe, we beat them in the quarter-final after extra time on a Thursday night at Ibrox in the Europa League again. But the following Sunday we're at Hampden, we're a goal down to Celtic, going for a treble. They got it the following season, but they weren't going to get it this season. They're going for the treble against Giovanni Van Bronckhorst Rangers. They're 1-0 up Celtic with 20 minutes to go, if even that. And we had the extra time the week before that, but on comes Scotty Arfield. He equalises, and we beat them in extra time. So that was a cracking comeback. And for all that I am absolutely in love with Philippe Clement, and it feels that what he's doing just now is almost unprecedented. It's never been seen before. That was his second league game in charge of Rangers on Sunday there. And Michael Beale's second league game in charge of Rangers, his second competitive match in charge of the Teddy Bears, again, less than a year ago. Having started with a win over Hibs at Ibrox, Beale and Clement, we're at Pittodrie under Beale in his second league game in charge, and we're a goal down in injury time. And of course, Scotty Arfield comes on, no need for any penalties, and he helps us win that one 2-1. So Clement's his results are great just now. The performances really varied, but it's not as if we haven't seen this before, even under a manager who we now think is a joke compared to Clement just less than a year ago. And no need for penalties that night at Pittodrie. We've actually had 3 penalties in a game at Dens Park. If you want to go 20 years ago, you remember it. And for all the people who think James Tavernier isn't Rangers class, I think everybody would agree, his behaviour, off-field stuff and what have you eventually let him down. We all had our own kind of personal fallouts, I think, with Barry Ferguson, but I think everybody thinks Barry Ferguson is one of the greatest players we've ever seen in a Rangers jersey. He missed 2 penalties at Dens Park, and we were awarded a third because, again, we were chasing the game. We managed to get a draw towards the end of 2002-2003 season. The current Arsenal manager eventually converting our third penalty of the game to make it 2 each. That day at Dens Park, it was still sought as a setback, but we eventually won the league and the treble that season, with the help of the conspiracy, of course. So yeah, it's not as if we weren't capable of doing comebacks or what have you, but that one on Sunday was definitely felt like a turning point for the new manager. It was as if Rangers kind of stared down this malaise that's undoubtedly affected the players in this team. That's been a big kind of defining characteristic of this team, unfortunately, over the last 2.5 years, where things get tough, they start fearing the crowd, perhaps at Ibrox. I don't know about that, because that massive run we got to the final in Europe, one of the most sensational things I've seen in my life, that was inspired by the Rangers crowd as much as the players. So it's difficult to say, but they start looking leggy. They start looking like they don't want to know. And next thing, we go a goal behind, and you just don't have any faith that we're going to come back. It's like they stared down the barrel of that, and it was our manager. It was Philippe Clement, I think, as much as anybody who inspired us to just, as I say, turn that frown upside down. We faced up to it and we overcame it, and it just feels like a slight re-energising under Clement. I know Mr. Hypocrisy here. I spent the last 10 months saying I don't think managers need to be demonstrative on the touchline, because that was a big criticism aimed at Beale. And I was thinking about the likes of Sven-Goran Eriksson, who, whatever you want to say about Sven's private life, which was nobody's business, quite frankly, and at times quite impressive. He was like, he looked like a scared accountant. He looked like a wee guy that you would, would bring in a note to PE because he couldn't handle it at school. Really geeky, kind of quiet, almost shy type. Obviously a bit of dark horse, but he was, a fantastic manager. He was getting teams winning European trophies with Lazio, and just getting Benfica and all that to European finals. An absolutely world-class manager. So the whole thing of needing a manager to be really aggressive and demonstrative and looking a bit threatening physically on the touchline and in press conferences, it's not. It's not a hard and fast rule. And suddenly, now Clement is here and he's doing all that stuff, and it seems to be working, over 3 games. 3 games. But I'm all in. I'm all in until we slip up at Dundee tonight. In fact, if the game doesn't go ahead, it's going to be Clement's fault, as far as I'm concerned. But we're all a bit flighty. We're all a bit hypocritical when it comes to gaffers. But I think you see Borna Barisic coming off the park after 9.5 minutes against Hibs. And he goes up to the manager and he gets, Clement goes in for the wee pat in the back, or Barisic goes in for that. Thanks, Gaffer. Aye, sorry about that. And down the tunnel. This is 9.5 minutes into the first match Philippe Clement's managed Rangers. And he does that, but he gets a hold of Borna. He doesn't let him go down the tunnel. He pulls him in close. And it's like, aye, what's wrong with you? What happened? What's the injury? And it's just, I'm reading too much into it and all that, but he did the same with all his substitutions. He's like having a proper confab. There's no kind of token slap in the back. We kind of, just out of politeness, the wee handshake. It's, I want to know what's happening with you. What is the injury? How bad is it? How do you think you played? Blah, blah, blah. How's your mum getting on? That kind of stuff. I'm going to be in your life and we're going through this together. So if you're thinking about chucking it, that means you're going to make me chuck it as well, and I'm not going to let that happen. So it's you can see it building up, and look, the game might not go ahead tonight. And anyway, even if it does, a preview of Rangers against Dundee, I'm just going to, I just do the preview stuff in the space of 3 minutes. What's the team lineup going to be? How have Dundee been playing? What's their form? What's our form? What's our recent record at Dens Park, etc. I'll do that in about the space of 2 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes. I really just want to talk about Philippe Clement and comebacks. It's always the same with these preview pods. You just want to get into kind of enjoying the football, enjoying the wider story. And I think right now it has to be Clement. The press conferences as well, as much as the game itself, is an absolute joy to listen to. He's bald, I'm bald, but I was finding hairs in places I didn't know them because they were sticking up when I was watching his post-match presser after that game against Hearts, and of course also yesterday the pre-match presser for Dundee tonight, when he's completely nailed the whoever is responsible for the appalling injury situation, the health of the Rangers players. He was doing that thing where he's saying, I don't want to talk about it, but he's telling you everything you need to know. Next question, please. I don't want to talk about, I've got an idea of what's wrong here. I've got an idea of why we're getting so many players injured so often, but I don't want to say anything, and that is saying as much as we need to know. I don't know the specifics. Is it Michael Beale? Is it Michael Beale's backroom team? Is it this whole thing of going with data analysis, data-led analysis for deciding the fitness of players? Is it the pre-seasons that have been put into him? Something that obsesses me is I watch Celtic just being that bit quicker than us the last few times we've played them. I don't know, but it's the biggest puzzle. The biggest puzzle I've ever dealt with. I think it was 10,000 pieces. It was John Constable's Haywain. Although I won when I was a kid, and it was a Battle of Britain, and it was a Spitfire and a Hurricane having a go at a Messerschmitt 109. That was a great jigsaw. But the biggest puzzle of Philippe Clement's life is why all the Rangers players are injured, yet he's intimating that he knows exactly why we've got so many injuries, and that's the way he goes. He's got the aggression, he's got the persona, he's got that thing where through the prism of the screen that I'm watching him on most times when he's doing his press conferences, he's scaring me, and he's not even in the same room. So he's got the press under control, while he's still, but he's palling with them as well. He's having the jokes. He's got that twinkle in the eye thing going on. When's Danilo coming on? Is he starting tonight, or is he's going to come on as a sub? I'm not going to let you know that, boys. I'm not going to. So he's saying, I'm not telling you, but he's doing it in a way that's, keeping everybody on side. It's a joke and all that. No, I'm not going to let the opposition manager know what the situation is. I love him. I love him to pieces. I'm wanting to watch. Once I've finished this, actually, I'm going to go and dig out and see if I can find on YouTube Netherlands 0, Belgium 0 at France 98. Philippe Clement played in that game. He was a defensive midfielder and one of the biggest derbies in world football, international football, the Dutch against the Belgians, and it was Belgium's first game in the 1998 World Cup finals, and it was in the Stade de France. There was 75,000 people there, and it finished 0-0. And he's a defensive mid in that game. You're thinking, that must just be like a war. You're playing for Scotland against England at the Cardiff Millennium Stadium or something like that in front of 70,000 in the first game in the group stage of a tournament. They didn't get through that group. Belgium, they drew all 3 games. Clement played in 2 of them. They're quite unlucky. It was a tough group. But I just think that, without even having seen it, it just makes me think this is a guy who knows how to go to war. He's been in battles. He's survived them, if nothing else. The defensive mid, they conceded no goals to the Dutch. That'll do for me. And I think he brings that into the pressers. All you can see is the back of, maybe the old bald patch at the back of a journalist's head when you're watching these press conferences. He knows he's talking to the journalists, but he knows he's also talking to us, and he's playing us all at the same time, and I'm happy to be played. There's something gained rather than lost in translation with him. His use of English, it's clearly someone used English as a second language to him, but the way he uses it, it's got these little nuances that are clever. They're better than native English speakers. And this whole thing about the white page, it's a clean slate, or a blank sheet or whatever, but it's a white page that the players have got. You've got to imagine that Dessers and Lammers, there's now a lot of kind of red biro scrawls across their white pages with big exclamation marks, asterisks, maybe underlined in a kind of brown, but he's that, and it's a reference point. This is a reference point. That game on Sunday was a reference point, so we know we can come back. We know that even if we're playing poorly, we can still win a game. I think the Hibs game, beating them 4-0, was a reference point that we exploited on Sunday. When you get that into the muscle memory, you can score goals, Rangers. He's let us know straight away that we've got 4 goals in us at home against that level of opponent. When we go into that 89th minute of that game on Sunday thinking, we haven't scored yet against Hearts. When we get the first, you can get the second because you've just done it the previous weekend. Absolutely fantastic. And I think you see the man out on the touchline just kind of haranguing the players with positivity, telling them they can do better, telling them never to give up. All he's saying just now is one game at a time. That's all he's saying. He's just saying one game at a time, but he's saying it in a way that feels new and it feels exciting, and that is the biggest challenge for any manager. Was it Shankly or Jock Stein? Used to say, you've got them for 3 years. After 3 years, they stop listening to you, and you either have to move on, which a lot of really good managers like Mourinho and all that, they don't stay longer than 3 years anywhere. A lot of good managers will move on after 3 years when the players have started to hear it all before, or you move on the players. You need to keep refreshing it, but he's right in the middle of that just now. Clement and his reference points and synergy. He's been in that interview with James Bisgrove, and Bisgrove has used the synergy 25 times during the interview process, you would imagine, and none of it anything to do with football. And Clement has went home and looked at his old English language dictionary from his time at Coventry. He's seen what synergy means, and he's using it in a great way. The synergy between the fans and the players, need to build that up. He drops that one in all the time, and it just sounds absolutely class. And he's got that theatricality, a bit of the thespian about him too. He's asked in the pre-match presser in Prague, what do you think would be a good result tonight? And he does, I think if we equalised in the last minute, okay, then you would say a draw was good, and that's him letting us know I'm up for a draw, without standing there and saying I'm the kind of Rangers manager who's going to think a draw is okay, because he knows that's counterproductive. He's letting us know that a draw could be okay, even more than he did when he put Sima at left wing back, which was necessary on the night, with the 3 at the back and all that. So we get a draw, and he's slagging the performance. It's not good enough. We want to be attacking more often. We don't want to be backs to the wall. We don't want it to be clean sheets to be enough. But he's let us know that was good. That was a good result. It keeps the positivity going. He's let us know that he meant to do that as well. At least get away with a draw, and he's achieved it. And I think the best one on Sunday there after the game, I don't know who it was, forgive me, it might be one of the boys in the Rangers review, I'm not sure, but somebody asked him in that presser post-match on Sunday, you're 5 points behind Celtic. Do you think you're mounting a title challenge now? Something along those lines. The fella started, the first kind of clause, his phrase of his sentence, his question was, that's you're 5 points behind Celtic. And Clement, before the guy could get the question in, comes back with, oh, is it, is it 5 points? And just in case you didn't get the point that he was acting surprised, he was surprised by that information, he then follows it up with, because I didn't know that, or something along those lines. It's like, oh, is it 5 points? Oh, is it? I don't know, folks. I don't know that we're 5 points behind them now. Yes, you do. Of course you do. But he did the same thing in the post-match presser in Prague. Somebody saying to him, but do you think you can finish top of this group because you're now such and such? I don't know. I don't care. I don't know how many points we've got. It's one game at a time. It's all about the next game. The old Sepp Herberger, like Germany's manager when they miraculously won the World Cup in 1954. One game at a time. The next game is the most important game. The most important game is always the next one. That's what he's saying in a new way, and making us all believe it. I don't want to concentrate on the long term. We've got to sort out the short term, and the long term will take care of itself. Look after the pennies, and the pounds will look after themselves. That's what he's saying, and he's making us all believe it, and it's great. And if you think for a second he doesn't know how many points behind us, it's quite funny. In yesterday's press conference, somebody said to him, this is your first away game in charge of Rangers, and he's like, yeah, in this competition we were away in Prague in the Europa League. It's my first league away game. No, he knows exactly, he's sharp as a tack, he knows exactly what's going on. But I think yesterday it was a big one. He's getting more confident. Obviously, he keeps getting the results. Why wouldn't he? But he's having a go at whatever's happening with the injuries. And his Rangers supporters, who've been saying for years, what the hell's going on? It's great to hear the manager just diagnosing the problem, admitting it's there. The first step in curing any problem is admitting it. And he's getting it out there, and he's saying it's the biggest puzzle of his life. But at the same time, he knows who's responsible, and he's not going to say anything about it. So it's. He's good stuff. It's tongue in cheek, and he's playing the press game to perfection. And you've got to imagine that he's able to do the same with the players. Tony Docherty, he's the Dundee manager. We better talk about our opponents tonight. Remember Tony Docherty going down the track at Dens Park, I think it was December 2016, was it? Alongside a certain Derek McInnes, who had just knocked back Rangers. I remember Aberdeen, I think, were playing Dundee on the Friday night at Dens Park, straight after McInnes had finally told us that the Rangers job was not concomitant with his managerial ambitions. They've gone their separate ways eventually, but McInnes now in charge at Kilmarnock, but Tony Docherty was his assistant then. I think he was taking charge of the Aberdeen players while McInnes hummed and hawed about coming to Ibrox. So maybe it's a sliding doors moment. Maybe he could have been Rangers assistant manager, Tony Docherty. But he's doing well with Dundee. He took over from Gary Bowyer, who was in charge of Dundee last season when they came to Ibrox for that awful League Cup game just over a year and 2 weeks ago. And it was Giovanni Van Bronckhorst was the manager. We went 1-0 up early doors, but Dundee were just make it worse and worse as the game went on. Dundee were still a championship side at that point, and I think they showed that night they didn't know how to take advantage. Rangers were just leaving the door wide open for them, and that was the first night I thought, yeah, it's over for you, Gio. I don't care about the European run, I don't care about the mitigation. This just isn't happening. The players are going backwards, and Dundee under Gary Bowyer went forwards and they got promotion. They got promotion last day of the season, a really exciting game against Queen's Park at Oakville View. You remember it if you watched it live in the BBC, as I did at the end of last season, but it was the last game of the season before Dundee secured the championship and automatic promotion. I don't think that was good enough for Bowyer or the Dundee board. So in comes Tony Docherty. Did a terrible League Cup group. They finished second in that, and I think it was all lower league teams in the group with them. I think they won most of their games, but they lost the one that counted was Airdrie, perhaps. I'm not sure. They lost it to somebody that was kind of embarrassing for them. Aris Limassol. And out they went from that. They didn't progress in the League Cup, but in the league, this is only their 10th game tonight. We're completing the first set. This is our 11th game in the league. We're completing the first rotation of league fixtures if the game goes ahead tonight. But for Dundee, it's played 9, drew 5, won 2 and lost 2. So they're 5th, and a real crazy kind of 4 teams on 11 points in the middle of the table in Scotland just now, all separated by I think 2 goals. difference, and Dundee are top of that pile at the moment. So they're in that situation which Clement hasn't faced yet, which is the second big scenario. The first one is, can you beat Celtic? And that's the only one Michael Beale failed on domestically anyway. The other one is, can you beat everybody else? And particularly, can you beat mid-table, not struggling, but kind of solid by their own standards, SPFL Premiership side, not Celtic, and they are under no pressure to come at us at all. Dundee's season is not going to be defined by these kind of the games against the old firm, as they always say. And I think Celtic is one of the two games that they have lost this season. And yet there's nothing stopping Dundee coming forward when they fancy it. So this will be really interesting tonight. It's a different test for the manager. And strictly speaking, our form, if not our results, are going downhill. 4-0 against Hibs. This is under Clement. 4-0 against Hibs, blew them away. Under the cosh, a lot against Sparta Prague, but we're away from home in Europe against a good level of opposition, and we clawed our way back into the game, and a draw was a positive result, albeit we could have ended up snatching victory, but it was a poorer performance generally. And then on Sunday we were abysmal for 89 minutes, absolutely abysmal, and snatched a win from that one. But that was all about attitude rather than the actual overall performance, which was terrible. So we're going downwards with our performances, but Dundee won on Saturday. They won away to Livingston, and it was 0-0, and then Livingston had a man sent off, and Dundee got 2 late goals to win the game. So they know how to seize an opportunity, as you would imagine, with McInnes's assistant through those years that Aberdeen put us out both cup competitions, and it was Gerrard's first season in charge. They're very good at keeping it tight and maybe snatching an opportunity when they get one, a bit like McInnes's Kilmarnock did with us earlier this season. So it'll be really interesting to see how Clement gets on against this kind of opponent. It's really dangerous for us tonight, but again, there's nothing to be gained for us with anything other than a win. But we've got to win. Dessers and Lammers. That's the one. That's the big debate going on amongst the Rangers fans. I think the level of criticism they're getting is now counterproductive. We've let them know. We've let every Rangers manager who's had Dessers and Lammers at his disposal, we've let both of them know that we don't like these players. We've let the players themselves know that they're going to have to up the levels of just competence, basically, especially effort. They haven't been all bad. They have had really good moments. They have had moments of real quality. They have helped. I think they've been applauded off the park, given the old standing ovation a couple of times. We're very quick to forget Dessers against Hibs just the weekend before last. But yeah, Danilo, the manager, was doing the twinkle in the eye type thing yesterday when asked if Danilo's going to start the game or come on later. He's not saying anything, but he will feature at some point tonight, Danilo, but I think there's a good chance we could see Dessers and Lammers starting again. And these players, if they're getting picked by Clement as well, white pages or no white pages, he must think they're better than anything else he's got on offer. The players were knackered on Sunday as well. Sima was having he was kind of posted missing. Connor Golson was having a terrible game. Lammers and Dessers have become the whipping boys, and for good reason. For good reason. There were a lot of terrible performances, a lot of just clueless stuff. Dessers has this thing of absorbing shots onto his foot rather than, he doesn't seem to be able to get any power in a shot so much of the time. That chance he had on Sunday where the ball just lands in his foot 2 yards for goal, and somehow he kind of sucks the ball into his socks rather than putting it in the back of the net. It's really weird, but he has had moments of greatness. But I think we're at the point now where they know the situation, they know how they're regarded, they know what they've got to do. If the manager thinks that's all he's got, it's really counterproductive for us to be slagging him in at the ground and damaging their confidence as much as anything else before this mid-November break, but before the January transfer window as far as those two are concerned. But I think there's a good chance that they could both be dropped tonight. A good chance we might never see them again. There's a good chance both could be dropped tonight. You just don't know what's going to happen. But we know that there's no Raskin, ankle injury, no John Souttar. So the defence is a kind of fait accompli. It's the same back five, including the goalkeeper, as Sunday. Borna's not back yet either. So, but Yilmaz, after being done at the back post, something Dundee and Tony Docherty will definitely have noticed, so watch for that. Balls to our left back area tonight. Yilmaz will be in there as well. I think Cifuentes, I don't know if that's one the manager's not fancying. He brought on Ryan Jack to take up the Raskin role. on Sunday. Could be Ryan Jack starting tonight. I'd be happy with that. I love Ryan Jack. Even when he's half fit, he still puts in a performance for us. So I would go with Jack alongside John Lundstrom, who has never been the best on earth. John Lundstrom, as far as I'm concerned, is the barometer. We should start calling him the barometer. If the manager's doing well, John Lundstrom does well. If the manager's doing poorly, John Lundstrom does poorly. So I don't know, chicken and egg situation. I'm still having it worked out what order that's happening in. We don't know about John Lundstrom's dedication to the cause. We're still unsure about that, but it definitely fluctuates. And I think we've got to see it as a case of if the team's playing well, John Lundstrom plays well. At some point, he's got to be a part of that. So we should be quite happy that he's on a roll just now. He's got to be part of the reason that we're playing well. And I personally, I think I would just go with Seema, Cantwell, and get Dessers outright. I think he was playing as a 10 on Sunday, but I would get Dessers outright. He did that in the last time he was at Tayside. Dessers, he was out wide right against St Johnstone, and he contributed to a cracking goal for Danilo, which got Danilo's face cracked. And Dessers, Danilo, he's back to the scene of the crime tonight, that county, that region of Scotland. But I think we could see Dessers starting up front and Danilo coming on if he's required. Maybe it being an away game will help Lammers and Dessers tonight, give them a little break from the Boo Boys. But I say there's every chance the two of them could be dropped altogether. We could have McCausland coming on, we could have Danilo starting. But I'd be quite happy with just Ryan Jack coming in to replace Raskin from the starters on Sunday. First, I have to end with a couple of apologies, folks. We had a bit of a problem on Sunday. Couldn't be helped. We've got a lot of good guys, a lot of really clever guys, journalistically, intellectually, aesthetically, on the pod. They're in big demand, so we ended up we couldn't get the live pod out for you on Sunday, the flagship show. And but thankfully, I was getting a second post-match reaction pod. Dougie and Rob, if you haven't seen it, please check it out. They got a cracking immediate post-match reaction pod, and they got it immediately out post the match from the Bills of Ibrox. They were in the West Enclosure, but they'd been in the press conference, so it was great for the lads there. Check that out. And when the live pod couldn't go ahead, it was, thank God Alex got one out as well, that I'd managed to do one. Not when I eventually got it posted, because the clocks went back on Sunday, and that's the first time in 6 months that the clock in my cooker and the clock in my car have actually been at the right time. I am technologically useless, and I proved that on Sunday. It took me forever to get that thing posted, and I was posting it with the wrong score, I was posting it in the wrong YouTube channel. It was horrendous, but thank God I got it out there. So we still had the two bits of content going out on Sunday night until I'd had my dinner and settled down, and I watched it back. I was talking 10 to the dozen. I was talking like a man possessed. It was absolutely rabid. I know I'm doing the same in this one. This is me trying to get as much information in as possible, because I love my football. I still haven't managed to tell you how much I love Dens Park and to go on about Dundee's European history and all that, but we're getting to the half-hour mark now, so it's time to stop. But on Sunday, I didn't realise I was losing it, absolutely losing it. It was incoherent, it was indecipherable, a lot of this stuff. And whoever it was that sent the post in, please feel free to hit us. I love your comments and the post-match reaction pods, all our stuff. We love getting comments. And from the people who are like part of the Gersnet family. We're nothing without you guys, so we love to hear from you. And somebody just said, slow, full stop, down, full stop. And I thought, yeah, thanks, mate. You're absolutely bang on. I wish you'd been there beside me outside the back of the Brimlin. I was so psyched. It was unbelievable. You've got a few days to calm down. You realise the performance was still giving massive cause for concern. But that feeling of thinking Rangers had turned a psychological corner was absolutely unprecedented. And just the sheer buzz of Rangers, scoring a late winner deep into injury time. As I said in that pod, the 3 seats next to me were vacated early by people who weren't enjoying the performance. They're not season ticket seats, and that left the way clear for me to the aisle. I'm in the main stand. So when Rangers scored that winner, I did a wee shuffle along to. I felt like one of the Union Bears. I felt like a young ultra, just like piling down to the front of the stand, like I was going to vault the West Enclosure and run onto the pitch and jump on top of the players as they were celebrating. What I actually looked like, of course, was just an old granny or an old mother just shuffling along to the front window to give it. Danilo Pereira da Silva, you get that mask back on. You get that face mask back on. I don't want to hear about it if you're back in the injury table. I'm like, oh, but come on, Mum, the rest of the boys have got the masks off. But you're special. Remember, you're special. Get that back on. Absolutely pathetic, but that buzz carried into my post-match reaction, so I'm really sorry if it was even more indecipherable and ranty and ravey than this one has been. Unfortunately for you, if the game does go ahead, I'll be back to hit you with more of it with a post-match reaction this evening, and if we do, I hope it's for a Rangers victory. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, folks, and I hope that includes a Rangers victory on Tayside.